Hi, I'm Bob Switzer, and this is the Epic Narrative. Oh my goodness, I am so excited. I'm so excited. I just got the it's been a day. Okay, it's been a day, and we released really early on Monday morning. I might have been the first one to listen to it on Monday morning because I just was excited. It's just the beginning of something. I just don't know what. It's just the beginning, and it had to start somewhere, and it started Monday with episode 1. And those of you that have already listened, like I was hoping, maybe 100 people. And we had almost 300 people listen on the first day, which is phenomenal. Every one of you are so encouraging to me, so encouraging. And a lot of you are personal friends, and you reached out to me personally, like because you have my, Facebook Messenger. You guys have my personal email. You guys have my personal phone number. I was getting text messages. I love it. I love having all of you friends come in behind me and say, "Hey, Bob, good job." And I want to, several of you mentioned some things. I want to kind of deal with that today a little bit. But man, I was so, I didn't even want to listen to the first one because it was the first one. It was the first one. And I think I'm better now than I was because I'm pre-recording everything. I'm not even quite done with the story of David yet, and I am way ahead of episode 1. I told you it was epic. I wasn't lying. This is an epic narrative. Wow, we got a long way to go. But those of you that listened, honestly, I was so blessed and so encouraged by the numbers, and you have no idea how much it means to me for that to happen. And if you liked it, and you think it's something others would enjoy, please pass it on to them. Because all I have are my friends to promote this to. I don't know people outside of those of you that already listen. So, you guys can help me out. I'm not looking to make money doing this. I just love doing. I wouldn't make money unless we had like 50,000 of you, and we're not even we're not even there. Let me just say that. We're at several hundred. So that's where we're at. So if you can get me to 50,000 this year, that would be awesome. You get me to 500,000, I'll buy you all. We'll have a pool party at my house. That's what we'll do. At 50,000, I will invite everybody to my house. Don't tell my wife yet. I'll tell her when she gets home. I'll tell her. I'll say I might have committed to something, but she'd be fine with it. Honestly, my wife is freakishly amazing when it comes to hosting and being a hostess. And she'll be like, "What did you do? We're getting porta potties. I'm not having 50,000 people go through my toilets." And that's true. We would. Our septic would just blow up. Literally. It would be all like, that guy from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, Eddie. We'd have to have a guy with a septic guy out there sucking it all out. Yeah, okay, Bob. Enough with the poop. On with the thank yous. Thank you guys for listening, and thank you for passing it on and for telling your friends. And I even had a couple people from England listen to it. And I know I have connections there from counselors that worked for me when I was a camp director out in Massachusetts. So I hope it's them. And if it was you, if you're in England and you're listening to this podcast, email me. If you're from any other country other than America, email me. Because there were some people in Canada that picked it up too. I don't even know who they are. So I would love to know. Okay, if you're from America, you can email me too. I don't really care. I like getting emails. You can use if you know me personally, you could, and you have my personal email, feel free. But generally, I'd like to keep the show stuff on the bobswitzer@gmail.com. thebobswitzer@gmail.com, just because it helps me separate the two. And I'm a little OCD when it comes to notifications. Like I keep most of my notifications off because I get panicked. Like if I have one unread email, I keep it makes me nervous. And I mention it because currently I can't find the one that's unread. It's driving me a little crazy. I've gone, multiple pages. Mark all's read, Mark all's read, Mark all's read. All of them are read. I don't know where it is, but I have this notification on my personal email. It says one email unopened. And I don't know where it is. Oh, I've looked under the primary. I've looked under the whatever that other one. I've looked in the trash. There's three of them: primary, promotional, and something else. I've looked under them all. That's just me. That's my personal problem. Don't worry. You all are fine. I will answer your emails, or at least mark them as read. It's not true. I'll read them. I will read them. I will. And I'm going to deal with one of them specifically because it brought up something that a number of people mentioned, and that was they were like, why don't you have your Bible open? That's not what they were incredibly gracious in the way they asked it, but basically they were saying, why didn't you have your Bible open? You couldn't remember what they brought to Saul, and all you had to do was look it up. Like, just pause the recording and look it up. And that's funny. And it was, I do that in the future. But because it was my first one, I really didn't think I was going into that much detail. I didn't know I thought I was totally prepared. Trust me. And usually what's in front of me, and I'll post some pictures. Where am I going to post those pictures? I just realized I zipped and unzipped my sweatshirt, and that probably came across on the microphone. What just happened? That's what happened. Okay, there you go. Of course, my producer probably will EQ that right out. You'll say, I didn't hear it. That's because he's brilliant. That's why. But I did do it. And then I did it again just to show what I did. Okay, on with the show. So in front of me, I'll try and post some pictures somewhere. I probably should get an IG account just for fun. So maybe I'll do that too. But I tape in front of me. I'm down in my basement. I tape in front of me the passage that I think I'm going to work through, or that, it covers it. And I have outlines of each episode that are handwritten. Now, that's just the way I do it. I know that I know there's no wrong way to do it. So this is the way I do it. I have to pre-record it because I kind of have to mentally stay in the rhythm of what's coming next and the overall layering of all the relational connections that I see, as well as the political activities and religious activities, all that kind of stuff. So I like to tell the story as quickly as I can, day after day after day. Now, I know that, sometimes life doesn't allow that to happen, but generally speaking, I try and stay on top of it. So I'm way ahead of you as far as episode 1 is concerned. And trust me, it is an epic story. It goes on for a long time. We have got a long time. And I'm not sorry for that. I'm just letting you know, if you started this epic narrative, you're going to be riding this for a while. And then I'm going to roll right into the next one because I love doing it. That's why I love the fact that so many of you listened. I'm just so encouraged by that. I love it. I love it because I love doing this. So I do all the research, and then I go to the passage. Now, generally, I will print out the passages that I'm doing. I generally use either the NIV version or the New Living Translation, the LIT version, and I'll have that taped up on the wall in front of me, as well as the episode I'm working on and the next couple of episodes, so that, again, I kind of see the flow. I see the transition. I know where I'm going, and I know, it helps me transition to that next episode. And then it also helps me draw references from the past episode because I see it and it's like, oh yeah, that's right. That's what we were talking about last time. And because for a lot of you, it'll be at least a week between episodes as they drop. I want to, kind of refer back to the week before so that you're not, if you're not confused or whatever. And I know most of you won't because it's a story and you tend to remember stories. And this is a very familiar story, which is why I started with David, because I figure at least if you like this kind of podcast, you'll connect to it. And it might as well be a story that you kind of know and understand, or at least have some reference to, even if you've literally never been to church. or read the Bible. All right. Couple things I want to deal with. Oh, so that first one, there was that email that was like, "Hey Bob, why don't you keep the Bible open in front of you?" And because it was my first episode, I thought I was totally prepared. And to be honest, as I tend to be, I try not to lie to you. I didn't really know if I could pause the recording without causing some sort of technological eruption. I just didn't. Like, I love technology and I do love it, but I'm nervous I'm nervous, very, very nervous around it. I don't like clicking buttons because probably because I'm old. I am. I'm 55 and I know. So I was alive before these things existed. So I'm afraid I'm going to click, the red pause button and something bad's going to happen. So that's what was going on in that first episode. And I knew I was stuck on some details. I think it was around the idea of what they brought to Saul. I could not remember what they brought to Saul in the moment. And I didn't want to pause the story because at some level in my head, I was thinking it's not details that are necessary to the narrative point that I'm trying to make. And I do know that I'm not making all the points that can be made from the story. I know that. You can draw a lot of things from the story. I'm just trying to capture these concepts and roll with them. So yes, I got stuck. The details were not in front of me. Literally, the passage wasn't even in front of me because I didn't think when I started that episode, I wasn't going to go into that kind of detail. It literally just kind of flowed, or vomited, depending on how you want to look at it, out of my mouth. Stop. Yeah, my engineer in my head, it's like, can you imagine puking all over your laptop? And I'm like, yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Which goes to another point, and a lot of you enjoy the entertaining engineer in my head, and it's true. It's just the voice in my head. It just is, and I love it. I didn't always. I'm a internal processor, but I do so through externally talking. So I basically talk to myself a lot. and it happens even when I'm preaching in front of people. And if you don't believe me, invite me to your church or your school or wherever, and you'll find out it's true. It's just true. And I do know that well, I don't know it. I think that if my mother wasn't as adamant as she was that I wasn't crazy as a child, I think I would have been on drugs for hyperactivity or these voices that I heard in my head. But my mom was and is currently, she's amazing. She's in her 80s. She doesn't look it. You would love my mom if you ever met her. But she was adamant that I was going to be fine. I just needed to discipline myself. I needed to control myself, is what she said. Bob, you need self-control. Self-control. She just say it to me. No explanation, just self-control. And I'd be like, freaking out at the table, just like wiggling and squiggling and banging forks, on the table, trying to do a rhythm. She'd be like, Bob. And I'd look, self-control. And I'd be like, okay. She was so good for me. She's such a good mom. Such a good mom. So at some level, my embracing of the engineer in my head is just my way of interacting with these voices that they do. They help me stay on track. And I know I don't mean to mock or belittle those who actually do hear voices. And I know that those are serious mental disorders. And they can and should be, diagnosed and dealt with well. And they can be. So I don't mean to belittle that or mock that. I know that those are real issues for like legitimate, amazing people that also have these disorders that they're walking through. I don't want in any way to make fun of that. So if you know people that are like that, please know that I'm not trying to make fun of it. It's just, for me, it's a way to explain what happens. Because sometimes, as you know, as you listen to my podcast, I get rolling down these trails, and it for me, it's very similar to hearing a voice in my head that goes, Bob, you're off track. Like, Bob, like, focus, focus, discipline, control, bring it back in, find your boundary. It's just kind of fun for me. So I have fun with it. I'm not making fun of it. I have fun with it, and I enjoy it. And I'm glad so many of you wrote to me and said, really love this engineer in your head. And trust me, if you listen to this podcast, he shows up in just about every episode in one way or another. Sometimes he just helps me get started because I don't really know where I'm at. And I just kind of have an open conversation with him. But I tend to process life out loud. I just have to do it alone, or you'd wonder who else was in the room. And sometimes I can't even tell you the number of times my wife will be in the living room and I'll be in the kitchen and I'll hear her say, "Who are you talking to?" Because my conversations are so animated that she thinks somebody has come to visit us, like at 9:30 at night or whatever. Who are you talking to? Nobody, just me, just talking. She's so good. My wife's amazing. You should get to know her too. You can always get to know me more on, my Bob Thoughts page on Facebook. That's another way you can message me. It could be about, a particular episode, or it could just be, because you just want to message me. A lot of you are friends with me on Facebook, so you can use Facebook Messenger too. But you go to Bob Thoughts. If you give it a like or a follow on Facebook, that would help me. Just because I have a feeling as we grow, and I'm believing that we gonna grow. Eventually, I'll get kicked off, the personal page on Facebook. I'm gonna have to, have like an epic narrative page eventually. Anyway, so. We'll see what happens with that and how soon that happens. But again, I just really wanted to let you guys know that I appreciate your listening. I appreciate you telling other people about it and subscribing. Even if you don't listen to it every week, at least subscribe so people out there in the algorithm world know that this is an interesting podcast. And always know this. A couple other things. Yeah. The episodes can be listened to individually. You don't have to listen to the whole deal. Like if you meet a friend and you're like, oh wow, like he's already on episode 12, you got a long way to catch up. Somebody can listen to episode 12 and be fine. They can always catch up. But I try to make the episodes one uppers. I try to make them independently valuable. And hopefully, generally you'll find that to be true. So if you missed a few weeks, don't think, oh man, I'm like 2 hours behind. Just start where you're at and catch up later, or don't catch up. Just leave them there. It's fine. It's fine. And you can let your friends know that as well. Like they didn't start on Monday. Oh no, it's okay. They can pick up wherever you pick them up. And let's keep this thing going. The intro, one of my friends wrote, they were like, I want to dance. And, you hooked me in with the music, and I was like, man, that's awesome, because I love percussions. I have loved percussions from my infancy. I think drums were always the thing for me. And my producer and I were talking early, probably 3-4 weeks before we were starting this, hoping to put the first one down. And he was like, what do you think? What do you want for music? And then, we got to get rights to it. We got to find this and find that. He's searching websites, and there are lots of amazing resources for people. And I thought of this song and that song and this, all kinds of different things that meant a lot to me and are fun for me. And I thought, you know what, in the end, after this is it took me a while to get there, but it was like, what do I love? Like, what's the one instrument I love that if I could, it would be the only instrument I would want? Like if I had to get rid of all the instruments on a band, which one would I want to be the last one to get rid of? And it would be the drums. And that doesn't mean that I don't like guitars or keyboards or violins or bass or anything. And half of those are percussion instruments too, I know. But I love the drums. So that became a no-brainer at that point. And I was trained in hand percussions by being forced to join a Brazilian bateria, a drum corps, a Brazilian drum corps. And my wife signed me up for lessons because I wasn't stopping playing. And she was like, all right, we need to do something because you're really not that good at it. So she bought me lessons for a Christmas gift. And so I go to my first lesson and it's practice. The band is there to practice. They're like, hey, this is Bob. He's going to be learning. And Bob, just pay attention. So it was kind of like the best way for me to learn because I'm not, I'm a ear. I learn by ear, better than I do by note, by sight. So it was great because all I had to do was listen and then I would watch and I'd see, and man, you got to follow the whistle of the director and shift oh man, it's just fun. That was fun. That was nothing but fun. And man, you just sit in this little room and it's just all drums everywhere. Big, huge drums, little tambourines. Oh man, that was some good times. Anyways, that's where the drums are from. That's part of my heart. And I hope you guys are having a great day. Continue to write me, make comments, and let's continue to move forward on this epic narrative. I think episode 2 is good. I think you're gonna like episode 2 because we do deal more so with David, I think. And then of course by episode 3 we're like all in on David. But Saul is so much a part of who he is and what he does. Saul, and that when I got that filter on Saul that he but he dealt with this deep, long root in his life of self-rejection. Man, that opened up a whole lot of answers to me about why Saul behaved the way he did. And when I combine that with the personal rejection that I think Samuel was going through, and when he was just like, basically, I'm not going to help Saul lead this country. Fine. You wanted a king. You can have a king. He's on his own. And he watched Saul suffer. And he didn't go help. He never went to see Saul again. It's crazy. It's crazy to me. And we'll get into all that. But man, self-rejection is powerful. And if it's something that you deal with, you're going to hear a lot about it, not all at once, but throughout the character and the decisions and the interactions of Saul with this story, which is pretty significant. I mean, it's I'm trying to look now. Abner, no, good grief. It's at least 25 episodes long before we kind of move on from Saul. It's pretty crazy. And like I said, this is long. So yeah, we're talking 25 weeks. You're going to hear about self-rejection interacting with this narrative for the next 25 weeks. It's a big deal. And it's legitimate. A lot of us suffer with it. The engineer's telling me, way to end on a high note, Bob. Good job. 2 thumbs up. I know. All right. We'll end on it. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate you listening. Keep up the good work. Pass the word around. Get the word out. Write me. Let's talk together. I'll see you again on Monday for the continuation of The Epic Narrative.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Epic Narrative. If you have questions for Bob or would like to reach out for booking, please email us at thebobswitzer@gmail.com or visit thebobswitzer.com. If you haven't already, please subscribe to The Epic Narrative podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. See you next week for another chapter in our story on The Epic Narrative.